My name is Bill Steffen. I currently am an assistant professor at Wingate University, and George asked me to speak to you all about some ideas about developing mental toughness. I'll give you a little bit of my background just to kind of let you know kind of who I am. Um, I'm currently an assistant professor at Wingate University. I teach in the exercise science department. Previously, I taught at Ohio University and the United States Sports Academy. Um, got my doctorate from UNCG in kinesiology with an emphasis in sport and exercise psychology. Part of that, I coached for 27 years Division I women's soccer at various universities across the country. I started the program at the University of Oregon. I worked at the University of North Carolina with their women's side and their men's side, which was a fun time. I won a couple national championships while I was at Carolina. I worked at Duke, so I have the privilege of saying I worked at both North Carolina and Duke. And I've worked with some really great coaches and some really great players over the years. Obviously, working at the University of North Carolina was unique in the sense that several of those players went on to become the 99ers and won that triumphant gold medal in Los Angeles. And I wanted to share some ideas about developing mental toughness. And speaking with George and I go back years and years and years working together over at Tony DeChico with Soccer Plus and goalkeeping camps over the years. And just have kept in touch as we progressed in our careers. And so George asked me to step in during these unique times and provide you all with some ideas about developing mental toughness. So given that that's one of my research areas, I thought I would do so. I'm going to do this via PowerPoint. Hopefully technology works with us and continues to work with us. And we will go through the PowerPoint. I'll provide you my email at the end. So that should give you some ideas about, if you have questions or comments, you can get in touch with me either through George or through my email. Okay, so let's start off sharing the screen and doing this and this. Okay, start this. Okay, so my ideas are primarily as an academic and as a coach. So I have kind of a foot in both camps, and I'll try and give you some theoretical background, but at the same time give you some ideas for application, because obviously that's what you guys want to do. You want to be able to apply some ideas about developing mental toughness. First off, this is not mental toughness, okay? Standing in goal while someone shoots penalty kicks out of a homemade cannon is mental toughness, okay? So why should we study mental toughness? Well, this goes back a ways to one of the original researchers in mental toughness, a fellow named Dan Gould, who I was lucky enough to serve. Dan was my advisor at UNCG, but studied wrestling coaches, and as you can see, 82% felt mental toughness is the most important psychological attribute. Again, I think many coaches do feel that mental toughness, if you had to give your athletes one mental skill, mental toughness would well be that skill. The bullet point below, though, only 9% felt that they were successful in developing mental toughness. That's the thing that concerned me. Was, well, this thing is so important, but yet we don't really think we can develop it. Well, how do we think it exists? Is it just born into kids? Is it outside of sport? And so I wanted to really investigate, how do we develop mental toughness in our athletes, okay? And you can see, again, Williams is a leading sports psychologist, but again, mental toughness is a big deal. It's a big factor in terms of our success. I was lucky enough to work at University of North Carolina when Mia was a player. I worked with Mia, Christine Lilly, Tish Ventrini, Tracy Noonan, Cindy Parlew, Kerry Sanchez, Angela Carey, a number of really outstanding players. And that was great for me as a coach. It was great for me just as a spectator, just to be around. But you can see how much Mia values mental toughness. And again, I would have to say I would rate Mia Hamm's toughness as exceptional. It's also important for us to teach mental toughness because it will transfer to other situations and other venues. And again, Grit by, again, some of you may have read Grit by Angela Duckworth. This is important in other factors of our lives. So the Department of Education is interested in mental toughness as well. If you can develop mental toughness in your players, you'll be benefiting them not only in their sporting activities, but just in their overall lifestyle. This is the kind of thing where it goes along with the definition of pornography. I know it when I see it. If I asked you all to define mental toughness, there are probably some common themes, but the definitions wouldn't be the same. We probably would rate different factors, and we probably look at it a little differently. Okay, so it's difficult for us to get a handle on it. So the first thing researchers did was try and come up with a handle. So if you take a second to read this, but you can see that some of the things they talk about here are being able to handle adversity and handle pressure, more consistent and determined and focused, and confident and control are two words that are very important as we go forward: confidence and control. Okay. Building on this, a couple of researchers, Crust and Clough, when I read a lot of research, sometimes I buy into it based on my experiences as a coach, and sometimes I kind of question it based on my experiences as a coach. But I think that this research from Crust and Clough is really helpful and really fits in terms of our ideas about mental toughness. So you can see they have 4 C's: control, challenge, confidence, commitment. Okay, so if we want to develop mental toughness, we want to develop each of these 4 characteristics, these 4 C's, in our players. Okay, that leads us to the question, well, we want to do this. How do we go about supporting our players and our athletes and trying to develop these 4 C's? This is the first thing I would suggest you do, is you just take, excuse me, you just take a simple Excel spreadsheet or just a scrap of paper and rate your players in each of the 4 C's. So all I've done here is here's my players up and down here. I rate them in control, commitment, challenge, confidence. Then I get a sum, the sum being their overall mental toughness score. And don't be afraid to do this subjectively. I'm going to give you some ideas about control, commitment, challenge, and confidence, some definitions and so forth on later slides, but don't be afraid to rate them as you feel. That's probably going to be, given if you know your players, that's a real strong support for your quantification of their qualities here, okay? So if you take a look at what I would do is, once I complete this, I would look across here. And if I look down here, I see, well, look, that's an 8. So this person here is my weakest mentally tough player. This is a player I really need to work on to develop their mental toughness. I would look at the sums across here, okay, up and down here, as who are my mentally tough players and who are players that I would rate kind of like weaker in terms of their mental toughness. So again, this should align with what your thoughts are. Probably what's more of a concern overall for my team are the total averages. Because if I look at this, this will tell me which of the 4 C's my team needs the most development on. So we can see here a 2.7 in commitment is quite a bit lower than our other scores. So I need to really work on the commitment level of my players to develop their mental toughness. And again, this could be, for any of your teams, it could be any one of these C's being the weakest. Okay. And again, the weakest is not meant to, downplay or denigrate any team, but rather just to say, okay, this is what I think I want to try and work on in terms of the mental skills of my team. So I would suggest your first step is to go ahead and just construct this Excel spreadsheet and rate your players in each of the 4 C's. Okay. The first C I'll talk about is control. So how do we develop control? How does a player feel like they have a real sense of control when they're on the field? And we do this through our practices, through our trainings. We want to simulate game settings and situations, okay? We'll place them in stressful situations. And again, I'm going to guess that a lot of you do these things. Okay, we're going to play for 15 minutes. The team on my right is down 1-0. Okay, ready, play. And so we've placed the players in a stressful situation. So what this does is it kind of learns to have them accommodate the stress so they can feel like they're in control. They know what to do, okay? During this time, this is when, as a coach, you start to ask questions of your players. What should you have done there? You're down 1-0. Well, what should you have done? Okay, it got to be 5 minutes left and you're down. Do you think you should send a player forward? Okay, who would you send forward? Okay, how far forward would you send them? Would you send them from the back to the front? Would you send just a midfielder front? What would you do? And again, giving these kids some ideas and some questions gives them answers that they'll create themselves, hopefully appropriate answers. If not, you'll need to guide them. But this will give the players a better sense of control of things they can do to help control a stressful situation. Okay. A big factor for the individual, if I had an individual player that was rated very lowly in terms of control, would be to work on imagery. Okay. And when you tell your player to image, don't tell them just to see things, but tell them to see things, feel things, kinesthetics, to feel things, to hear things. Okay. Hear your foot striking the ball. Hear the ball strike the back of the net. If you're a goalkeeper, and again, George and I shared this a lot when we speak about goalkeeping, is hear the ball squeak on your gloves. Okay. And then what do you feel? Do you feel yourself jump? Do you feel yourself shooting? And do you feel yourself landing on your shooting foot? When you're dribbling around the defender, do you feel your body bump that defender? When you go up to win a header, do you feel the jostling? Feel how players are bumping into you, but you maintain focus and get your head on the ball. Okay. And then olfactory, what do you smell? Okay. Obviously, we want them to smell if they've just mowed the field so you can smell the grass. Okay. You want your players to feel, hear, get a good sense for what's going on, even down to the fact they smell what's going on. Okay. I want to talk about emotional control. Okay. And this is a good little video, and I hope that sound transfers. So I'm going to play it, and hopefully it does. But from Kobe Bryant. Okay.
Mental toughness really is it's all about not getting too high or getting too low, but just kind of staying pretty even keel. I mean, that's kind of the trick to it, is not to get too emotionally attached to the situation.
Come on, don't be short.
I mean, it's one thing to be excited, but there's certain emotions you gotta watch out for, like overlooking plays or getting frustrated because you missed a shot or had a bad turnover, and kind of letting that kind of linger. Now I think it's a point where I can identify it pretty quickly. So if something's frustrating me, I can always not react to it. I can always get right back to the pocket that I need to be in pretty quickly.
Okay. So I think Kobe demonstrates there having control of your emotions so that he doesn't get too up, doesn't get too down, but rather stays focused on the task at hand. Okay. Okay. Commitment. Okay. And this is a tough one, but this is a kind of like a little bit away from the field kind of talk that you might need to have with your players if you want to get some idea of commitment. Okay. And so commitment, again, I've given you just a brief definition here, deeply involved in what one's doing. And again, you may have seen this acronym for goal setting, and it's appropriate. I mean, if you ask any sports psychologist, they will tell you, yeah, this is a good acronym. Okay. You want your kids to have some long-term goals. And if they don't have them, ask them, what are your long-term goals in the game? It may open your eyes to some things your kids want from the game, but hopefully you're on the same page, and this gives you a bit of structure and a better way to establish this commitment from your players. It's important when you set these goals to get some buy-in rather than you setting these goals. Rather, I wouldn't just say allow your kids free reign to set any kind of goals they want, but rather guide them, work with them to kind of get the kind of goals that you all can agree upon for your long-term destination as a team and as individuals. Okay. So I would work on long-term goals, both for the player and for the team. As a team, what's our long-term goals? Okay. And you could start off by saying, a long-term goal would be for this season. Okay. Then you may want to talk with players about what's your long-term goal during your soccer career. Do you want to play in college? Okay. Do you want to make a certain college level? Do you want to make a certain level after college? What level do you desire to play at? So just a lot of communication here, okay? But establishing SMART goals would be beneficial to your developing your team's commitment. Challenge is kind of a fun one, all right? And you can see the definition up here. The change rather than stability is normal. So get used to change. And one of the ways to do this is to continuously set up short-term goals. When kids show up at practice, you set a goal for today's practice. Okay, today we're going to do a shooting drill. I'd like to see us get 80% of our shots on frame. And the kids didn't know that before they got there. But now all of a sudden, okay, yeah, so, well, we've got to get 80% of our shots on frame. Okay, you can do this through physical goals. Okay, we're going to, try and do a run. We're going to get this run in. We want to get it in this amount of time. Okay, it could be competitive. Okay, we're going to give you some games. You're going to be playing, small-sided games, a series of small-sided games. Let's see how you do with them. It could be technical, as I said, 80% of our shots on frame. The challenge also is harsh, frank criticism, but, and this is the second bullet point, in a supportive environment. Okay, there are times when you need to tell your players that wasn't successful because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, but then you need to support them. Now, here's how we develop X, Y, and Z. Okay, so you give them the criticism, but you also give them some ideas about how they can overcome whatever faults or whatever problems you found. And you can start by asking them, okay, so I told you that, our shooting wasn't good enough. What do we need to do to get better with it? And some of the kids may tell you, well, yeah, you know what? We just want to focus. We've got to concentrate more. Okay, good. How do we concentrate more? Well, we keep our eye on the ball a little bit more. We don't talk to others while we're shooting. We just kind of focus on this or some other technical point. Okay, and these are some ideas for you to develop this appreciation of challenge and how, when players are presented with a challenge, how do they meet this challenge? What's necessary to meet the challenge? What kind of a focus? What kind of a physical commitment? What kind of a mental commitment is necessary to meet these challenges? But again, giving kids challenges is a good thing. Now, here's where the art of coaching comes in. What's the appropriate challenge? And I can't tell you that. I don't know your teams. I don't know, is 80% of our shooting on frame, is that doable? Okay, where our kids are at right now, is that doable? So the challenge has to be appropriate. And when you kind of create these challenges, if you picture the challenge in your mind and you think, yeah, they can do that, that challenge is probably too easy. If you picture it in your mind and you say, you know what, they're not going to be able to do that. Well, yeah, you're probably right. That's too hard. If you ask yourself, can they do this challenge? If they do this, they focus, I think they could do it. That's the kind of challenge you want. It takes a second to think whether you can do it or not. If it's automatically yes, too easy. Automatically no, too hard. Takes a second to think about it. Well, that's probably the level of challenge that you want for your kids. And again, that's the art of coaching. Okay, you need to know your kids, where they're at, and what's the appropriate challenge. Confidence is a big one. Confidence is a big one in mental toughness, but in all facets of life and sport. Okay, and from a fellow named Bandura, who's actually an educational psychologist, he has 4 factors that determine mental confidence. Okay, and these are things that I think we might take for granted, and I'm going to go over kind of like the more academic terms, but I'll translate it into coach speak. And as we go through it, hopefully you'll make sense. Okay, you want to try and design your practices so that they have each of these 4 factors. Because if I were to ask you, what's your practice, and you described your practice to me, and I thought, okay, do kids get master performances? Do they get vicarious experiences? Do they get verbal persuasion? Are they optimally aroused? Well, you know what? If you meet all 4 of those, you probably have a good practice. That's probably going to be a good practice. And I don't even know what level your kids are at and so forth, but if your kids will get these 4 things, it's probably a good practice. Okay, so let's take a second for each one of these. Master performances are just doing it, but correctly. Reps, they get good reps. Okay, if I want to be a confident penalty kick taker, it helps if I've taken 10,000 penalty kicks and I've made 9,000 of them. If I want to be a good penalty kicker and I take 10,000 penalty kicks and I make 1,000 of them, I'm probably not confident. So I need to get a lot of quality reps, a lot of successful reps. So again, master performances, that's kind of the academic term. Reps, that's what the coaches will say. Just get a lot of successful reps, okay? The vicarious experiences are the modeling and the demonstrations, okay? Do you have a good demonstration for your kids, okay? Yeah, that could be that you could perform the skill and you can demonstrate it. If you can't, do you have a player that can perform the skill and demonstrate it? Is there a video? If you have to, take an iPad out to training, show them a video. Okay, show them a video of whatever skill you're trying to get out of this session. Okay, when you do the modeling, I just want to give you some ideas about modeling, having the demonstrations for your players. You may want to choose, you may want your modeling session, the demo to go perfect. It's a great demonstration of what you're after. And that's good, that's good. If you choose the same player each time, if you choose Johnny to demonstrate this and Johnny to demonstrate that and Johnny demonstrate this and Johnny demonstrate that, after a while the players kind of think, well, yeah, of course, Johnny can do everything. So you need to be a little bit more selective. And again, this is where the art of coaching comes in terms of who you select for your models. Okay, you want to try and get as many people modeling and demonstrating skills and techniques and so forth as possible. And so you as the coach have to know, what can this player demonstrate? And you have to have that in your mind. So when you call upon somebody to demonstrate, you're picking somebody that you think would be okay. If George, I'll pick on George. If George is a player that's one of our weaker players and people don't think he's very strong, I have to think as a coach, well, what could George demonstrate? What can we have George do? And if I think, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe defensive heading. I think George can do defensive heading. So I have George demonstrate defensive heading. Well, the kids think this is great. If George can do it, we all can do it. So it just works. It works to develop a real healthy atmosphere among the team when you can have a lot of different people demonstrate a lot of different things. One last point with your demos. Sometimes a demo doesn't go perfectly. You want a kid to demonstrate shooting and kid shoots it over the bar. Okay, not a perfect demo, but you can use this to really help develop a good sense of confidence in your kids. If you know how to fix it, if I'm watching a shooting demo and the kid shoots over the bar, Johnny, come over here. Look, when you shoot, when you took that last shot, I noticed you leaning back a little bit. Keep your upper body over the ball, okay? That'll keep your upper body over the ball. Keep the ball lower, put the ball on frame. Okay, so let's try that again. And he keeps his upper frame over the ball and strikes, it's on frame, it's on goal. Yeah, so what's happened? Well, the players are watching. You know what? If there's problems, that's not a big deal. We can overcome the problems. So if I miss a shot, it's not a big deal. We know how to fix it. And coach knows how to tell me how to fix it. Coach has some answers if things go wrong. So you're giving yourself a little dose of credibility here. Now, that requires you to be able to pick up any technical fault that a player may go through when they're trying to execute their demonstration. Okay, so you need to do your homework and understand the correct techniques that you want demonstrated. So if need be, you could provide some correction, some corrective information, okay? The verbal persuasion are your coaching points, okay? And I will encourage your coaching points to use questions, okay? If you could do it over, what would you do differently? Okay, what am I going to tell you to do now? What would I tell you to do? Okay, so if a kid does shoot a ball over the bar, and I've gone through my demo with them, and I'd say, okay, what happened on that last shot? I was leaning back. Yeah, right, exactly. Good. Don't do that next time. There you go. You got it. That kind of thing is really important in developing confidence, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to get kids to self-coach. In a sense, you're trying to get yourself out of having to provide these coaching points. Rather, the kids know the coaching points. Now, again, if you say to a kid, well, what would you do differently? And the kid goes, I don't know. You need to step in and provide that information. Because if the kid says, I don't know, and you go, man, I don't know either, you're not much help. You've got to be that help. You've got to be that source of information. So make sure you know the technical points in your session, in your practice, in that exercise, and then you can provide those if need be, but always allow the kid a chance to answer for himself, to self-coach, because self-coaching is one of the keys to confidence, okay? And lastly, optimal arousal. You want your kids warmed up and all set, both physically and mentally, for your practice. If you're going to do a practice on pressing, having your kids just jog around the field and stretch a few times isn't really a good warm-up, because again, when they're pressing, they're probably not jogging, okay? Your warm-up should include some quick sprints at the ball. Okay, so you distribute the balls all over the field, within a certain grid, and okay, jog around. When I clap my hands, sprint to a ball. Okay, so I clap my hands, they sprint to a ball. And again, this gives them an idea, both physically and mentally, we're going to practice pressing and closing down quickly. Okay, so make sure that your warm-up matches what your expectations are for that session. Okay, so here's kind of our take-home points for mental toughness. Okay, it's difficult to define, yeah, and it's difficult to identify the mechanisms, how this is developed, but we want to try and apply this to our players. So we're looking for the 4 C's, and hopefully you can recall each of these: the control, the challenge, the confidence, and the commitment that your players need to be successful, okay? If you can try and work each of these into a practice, okay, then that's magic. That is a great practice. I talked about the 4 factors of confidence, okay? Master experiences, the vicarious experiences, the persuasion, and the optimal level of arousal. If you have a practice and you've got a practice plan, think about your practice plan. Does it include the 4 C's? Does it include, okay, those 4 take-home points about confidence? Okay, and try and see if this is something that you can, when you schedule your practice, when you plan your practice, do I have these 4 C's in mind? Do I have confidence, those 4 factors of confidence in mind? Because again, that's what I want to try and do with my players. I provided some reference, and again, I'll give this PowerPoint to George, so if you would like to, have a copy for yourselves, I have no problem sharing the information. Okay, there's some references. Let me stop the share. Okay, I'm back anyway. So hopefully that's given you some ideas, okay? My email, if you have a pen and pencil, if not, then hopefully you have a recording, so you can use this, is drbillsteffen@yahoo.com. drbillsteffen@yahoo.com. George will have that, so please feel free to ask George either for my email address if you haven't gotten it. I'll send you a copy of the PowerPoint, and any questions that come up, I'd be happy to address those, because again, this is something that I'm fascinated by and spend a lot of time working with. Okay, well, that'll do it for me. Good luck, coaches. Hope this works. Good luck with your mental toughness development. Take care.